Okay, here we have the Renault Scenic. This one comes with the electronic style handbrakes. Some say they're good, some say they're bad. To be fair, I think I prefer the old cable ones myself. Now, this is the 6-speed manual, and immediately what I like about this car is the fact that the gear shift is right up high here. Always means you can have a short shift gear change, which always makes for a better gear changing experience. It's like sitting on a bench, this car. It's not really the best driving position, and I can imagine driving this for a long time you're probably going to be getting quite uncomfortable. But saying that, you are high up and you do have a lot of vision all around. Now, looking at the rear view vision now, it's not that bad, but it does have a seat belt coming down from the headlining, which I personally think is a bit distracting. Looking at the rear view vision, we have the seat belt hanging down from the headlining, which is distracting because you see that first before you look out the window. But even though there's ample window to look out of, this mirror here is far too narrow. It doesn't complement the window that it's supposed to be looking out of. It could be a lot wider, that mirror, and I think it should be. Interestingly enough, the wing mirrors on this car too are very, very small, and I wonder why. I mean, at the end of the day, this isn't a fast car, it's not going to be aerodynamic ever. So why put these pretty little mirrors on? Because even though you can see what's going on, they're a bit stingy with the surface area of the mirror, and you could do with bigger mirrors. And that's a bit of a strange oversight, I would have thought, by Renault. You've got the digital display here, which I always think is a good idea. It gives you a lot more ability to read the speed you're doing quicker than having to look at an analog dial. It's quite a blending light as well. It doesn't dazzle you or distract you while you're driving, which I think would probably be the case if it was like a red light or a yellow light. Now, the vehicle is top heavy, but I think we can say that's expected. After all, it is a high vehicle, and we know that being French, it's definitely going to have soft suspension. So as I come around this corner now, I can really feel the car leaning over at the top. Now, 40 miles an hour, if I give the car a little bit of a wiggle test, it actually doesn't bounce around that much. It's more of a meandering. Now, doing an emergency manoeuvre in this vehicle at speed could be quite costly, and because of the makeup of the car, it's not going to complement any movement like that at all. So this is one of those cars that you're going to have to beware when you're driving at speed down the motorway, and you have a lot of people in the car and a boot full of luggage, because you're not going to be able to manoeuvre this car at speed. 60 miles an hour, 6th gear now, and the car can handle that no problem at all. There's no strain on the car at all. I do find I have to correct the steering a lot, which is very irritating, and there's actually quite a lot of play in the steering. And oddly enough, if you give the steering a little bit of a wiggle, the car seems to wobble more than it does if you give it a substantial shake. So there's quite a lot of play in that steering. Being a front wheel drive, on the corners I am aware of the steering being reflexive and pulling back, which can also be a bit disconcerting if you're travelling at speed, or in the rain where you're going to get a lot of understeer. There's not a lot of noise from this car, and surprisingly there's not a lot of wind noise, because we are basically driving a brick through space, and it's slipping through the air a lot better than one would anticipate. There's an enormous amount of headroom in this car, but even now, after driving this car for less than an hour, I'm starting to feel uncomfortable, because I'm not leaning back, I'm not comfortably seated. I'm sitting upright like I would in a restaurant, or like I would sitting on a bench, and I don't think that's a favourable driving experience. Now, one thing that's immediately obvious in this car is the centre console here. It's very easily laid out, it's very elementary, and what I like is these heating controls here. There's no doubt that I could operate those heating controls without taking my eyes off the road. and that's always going to be a plus sign in any car. A lot of cars nowadays, there's so much going on here in the center console that in order to operate the buttons you need a pilot's license. So everything here is basic, it's elementary, and it works. I don't understand why people want to make that any more complicated. The upholstery, well, it's pretty gnarly, to be honest. It's absolutely awful. In fact, I couldn't even compare it to office furniture because it's that bad. The brakes, they're very grabby. I don't have the opportunity to apply the brakes at a gradient at all. There's no gradual pressure. They're either on or they're off. And although I'll do a better brake test further up, I can say already that what's happening here is the car is pulling to one side. Now we're going to do a 0 to 60 test. The road conditions are damp. This is a front wheel drive car, so it won't be amazingly accurate. 3, 2, 1, go. At all for a people carrier anyway. Now I'm going around the roundabout now. There's no better place to see what the cornering characteristics of the car are like. 25 miles an hour, and the car is really struggling with the corner. Even at 25 miles an hour I can feel the front wheels beginning to slide, and it wouldn't take much for me to go that way. So there's a lot of reasons why not to buy this car, and I think the fact that it's front wheel drive is probably one of the biggest ones. Now in a moment I'll be doing a brake test. It won't be an emergency stop, it will just be a firm brake from 50 miles an hour down to about 20, maybe a bit less, just to give me an idea of how the car behaves when it brakes, the characteristics of the braking system. Now we do this now. 3, 2, 1, 0. Even though the brakes are actually quite smooth in operation, the inability to apply a gradual pressure means you're going to have that either on or off effect, and you are going to be having that grabby brakes, which is it's okay on the motorway I suppose, but when you're using a vehicle day in day out around the town and you're constantly jolting and stuff like that, it can become very tiring. So this car, if you want to do long distance, if you're going to be doing motorways, you don't really want to mess around with this car. It's just not comfortable. The 6th gear does come in handy. It will give you a greater economy, and it does glide along quite nicely at 60-70 miles an hour down the motorway. But the steering is constantly being governed by the road. It's constantly being pulled in left or right by the corners. I'm constantly having to adjust it, and it's really quite a tiring car to drive. So I think anybody thinking about buying one of these cars is obviously going to be dealing with a second-hand one, so I wouldn't expect too much. You've got a bit of a bare bones package going on here, and there's no luxury. It's a basic elementary car, and it really doesn't surpass that in any other way. It doesn't really go in any further than that. So I wouldn't expect too much from Renault Scenic, but it's got the 6 gears, it's got the boom. You can certainly shift a lot of people around in this, and if you're doing local runs, then this car will be fine. But for long distance, no. And when you do take one for a test drive, have a look at the brakes and have a look at the steering, because if the car wobbles too much, you really want to walk away from it. But as far as an average car goes, this is budget motoring, and you know, at the end of the day, a bit of a cliche, but you get what you pay for.